Maren Gustafsson had learned to read winter the way some people read newspapers. From the windows of Frosty Pine's lodge she could tell, by the lace of frost climbing the panes and the hiss of the wind through jack pines, whether the ice on Whispering Birch Lake was thick enough for tomorrow's rental shanties, or if the fish would bite before supper. Late January found the small Minnesota resort booked solid, with anglers who prized crappies the size of pie plates and the sort of stillness only a frozen lake could muster. They also came because Maren knew her stuff. She pre-scouted holes with her new side-scan sonar unit, brewed Scandinavian strong coffee, and told stories in a low, comforting voice that reminded guests of distant wood-burning stoves. The lodge was her late husband Clay's legacy, and after 3 winters running it alone, she felt as sturdy as the cedar plank walls. Saturday morning, before her first guests rose for blueberry pancakes, she parked the snowmobile at Hole 9, a spot marked on Clay's old map, with a penciled fish sporting a halo. The sonar tablet dangling from her neck by a lanyard painted the usual bands of blue and green that meant a scraggly weed bed below. Then a ribbon of black appeared, curved like the bend of a spoon. She frowned, adjusted gain, and made another pass. The screen repeated the shape, only now it branched, a second tunnel-like void, snaking east toward the shoreline lots recently bought by a developer nobody in North Rock quite trusted. It was bigger than a muskrat burrow and too deliberate to be a natural crack. Maren saved the coordinates, her mitten trembling on the button, and told herself it was probably an acoustic glitch, though the little hairs on the back of her neck said different. At the lodge she found Jack Iverson, the county game warden, sipping from a thermos while making polite conversation with 2 Chicago anglers who wore brand-new parkas and kept mispronouncing lutefisk. Jack was 35, broad-shouldered, and had known Maren since they shared lockers in 9th grade biology. When the city men headed for the gear room, she tilted the sonar tablet so only Jack could see. "Tell me that isn't weird," she whispered. Jack's hazel eyes narrowed. "Looks like a tunnel, but there's no culvert out there. Could be a buried spring. Could be something else," he said, voice lowered. "You hear about the fentanyl bust over in Cook County? Folks are finding creative routes." Maren snorted. "Through an ice-locked lake? That's mighty creative." Jack slipped the tablet back. "Text me if you see more. Meanwhile, keep this quiet. Tourists spook easy." Quiet proved difficult. The Chicago guests, Derek and Lucas, returned after dark with no fish, claiming their auger battery died miles from shore. Maren lent them a spare, yet noticed they hadn't chipped a fleck of ice off their boots. They seemed more interested in taking depth readings with a gadget they kept hidden in their pockets than in jigging for walleye. When she offered them hot dish, they declined, retreating to their cabin before the coffee finished percolating. Through frosted glass, Maren saw their headlamps sweep the tree line, not the lake. Something about their hunched postures reminded her of raccoons raiding garbage under moonlight. Ola Nygaard, her 82-year-old handyman, shuffled into the kitchen while Maren was stacking plates. He smelled of cedar shavings and peppermint schnapps. "You look like someone ate your lefse," he said. She showed him the sonar screenshot. Ole whistled. During Prohibition, they smuggled whiskey through limestone caves up by Rainier. Maybe someone's getting nostalgic. "That close to Canada?" Maren mused. "We're 50 miles south." Ole winked. "Criminals don't mind driving." He tapped the screen. "Your tunnels line up with the old logging road. What if someone widened natural fissures with dynamite? Ice would hide every sin." The idea that Whispering Birch hid more than lake trout nipped at Maren all night. A blizzard arrived, polishing the moon to a pearl and adding fresh drifts against the lodge's blue-painted siding. While guests slept, she sat alone in Clay's workroom mapping the black ribbons on grid paper. She overlaid property lines and noticed the main tunnel arrowed directly toward the new boathouse belonging to Darcy Quaid, a Minneapolis entrepreneur who'd bought 3 lots last fall and promised an eco-friendly resort someday. Locals doubted his sincerity. He spent more time on his cell phone than learning everyone's names. The following afternoon, she convinced Jack to ride out with her. Snow hissed under the runners as they cut across the lake, Fen, her blue-eyed husky, trotting behind. Jack drilled a test hole near the first anomaly, while Maren dropped a submersible camera. The feed revealed smooth-walled cavities, unnaturally uniform, and an odd metallic glint. Jack inhaled sharply. "That's cut stone. Somebody reinforced these." "So now what?" Maren asked. "I need a warrant to poke around Quaid's shore property," Jack said, "and the sheriff's stretched thin with snowmobile thefts. We'll need better evidence." That night, the Chicago men asked to rent Maren's side-by-side ATV for a nature ride. She signed the form but attached a discreet GPS tag under the seat. Their route, displayed on her laptop, cut a beeline across the lake to Quaid's boathouse, lingered 20 minutes, then returned by a different path. When they came back, their cooler sloshed suspiciously, though they swore it held nothing but melted ice and failure. Maren kept her smile, but her pulse hammered like an auger bit. Unable to sleep, she remembered Clay's mantra. The lake talks if you listen. At 2 a.m. she pulled on her parka, woke Fen, and snowshoed to the shoreline opposite Quaid's property. Snow stung her cheeks, and northern lights unfurled like green drapery overhead. She crouched behind a spruce and watched the boathouse. A faint orange glow pulsed through its cracks. Seconds later, the ice near the building groaned, fractured, and an oblong hatch rose like a whale surfacing. A man, Quaid himself, hooked a cable to something inside the opening. A low whirring followed, and a battery-powered winch lifted a sleek, torpedo-shaped drone, water streaming from its hull. Quaid and an unseen accomplice wrestled a crate from the drone's belly and vanished indoors. The hatch hissed shut, iron against ice. Maren retreated, heart tripping over itself. She nearly called Jack then and there, but decided to gather proof first. She'd learned, after Clay's death, that action without a plan bred regret. In the morning, she went through normal motions: waffles, bait sales, dried-out jokes about northern pike therapy, while plotting. When Jack stopped by for coffee, she slid him a rolled photograph snapped with her telephoto lens. The drone's silhouette was clear, the crate clearer. "You wanted better evidence," she murmured. "How's that?" Jack's eyes widened. He spoke carefully. "This, plus your sonar maps and the GPS trail, might swing the sheriff. But we'll need to catch them mid-transfer. Tonight's forecast is 30 below. No sane tourist will be on the lake. Perfect cover." They agreed on shifts. Maren would guide guests to a fish fry potluck in the great room and lull them with fiddle music Ole provided, while Jack coordinated with 2 deputies he trusted. If Quaid or his Chicago pals tried another run, spotters would be ready. Even perfect plans wobble. Shortly after dusk, power lines sagged under ice, plunging the county into darkness. Generators hummed at the lodge, but cell service flickered. The deputies were stranded behind a jackknifed salt truck 20 miles away. Jack radioed Maren, voice tinny. It's just you and me. Stay put. I'll circle toward Quade's Bay. Maren stared at the revellers, kids dunking marshmallows in cocoa, honeymooners snuggling near the stone hearth, and felt the familiar tug of responsibility. If she left, who would stoke the fire? Yet the mystery beneath the lake had become hers, as surely as the lodge keys in her pocket. She scribbled a note for Ole, snapped a leash on Fen, grabbed the sonar tablet plus Clay's old .22 rifle, more comfort than weapon, and steered the snowmobile into the night. Halfway across the lake, sudden drumming reverberated below, as if a muted engine throbbed beneath her runners. The sonar, rigged to a dash mount, displayed a moving blotch in the main tunnel, bigger than before, heading toward town. She gunned the throttle, following the shadow to an area where the ice road intersected with a ploughed turnoff unused since Christmas. There, under dim starlight, Derek and Lucas hunched over an open hatch, identical to the one by Quade's boathouse. They hadn't noticed her approach. The snowmobile's engine was masked by wind. Maren killed the motor and called out in her best lodgekeeper voice, "Evening, gentlemen. Everything okay?" Both men jerked upright, surprise hardening into calculation. Lucas forced a grin. "Battery died again. Got a jump pack?" She dismounted, keeping the rifle hidden beneath her coat. "Funny, your coolers seem full for an empty hands day." Derek's eyes flicked to the husky, then to the rifle barrel poking from her sleeve. His hand edged toward his jacket, but Fen growled low. Jack's snowmobile lights burst over a drift just then, throwing long shadows. The criminals bolted, but instead of running across the open ice, they scrambled into the hatch, slamming the metal lid. A mechanical grind followed. Jack skidded to a stop. "They're diving?" "Looks that way," Maren replied, breath turning to crystals. "We can't exactly chase an underwater drone." He peered at the sonar still running on her dash. The blob moved along the tunnel at maybe 4 knots. Jack's jaw set. "But we can slow them down." Maren understood before he elaborated. Clay had once demonstrated how rapid drilling relieved stress fractures, causing thin late-season ice to spiderweb. Tonight the ice was thick, but the tunnel below created a hollow. If they weakened the lid's surroundings, a section might sag, trapping the drone. Risky, but so was letting opioid traffickers vanish. They worked quickly, Jack on the power auger, Maren on a hand spud, Fen pacing. Holes dotted the line 30 yards ahead of the sonar target. The drone advanced, unaware. With a dull boom, the ice between 2 holes collapsed inward. Slush geysered up, then froze mid-air. The sonar blob stopped, reversed, then stilled. Evidently the pilot decided going forward was safer than backing into their launch shaft, now partially jammed by the crash. From the south, a plume of headlights bounced over drifts, the sheriff's rescue snowcat finally free. Deputies piled out, weapons drawn, as Maren waved them toward the compromised hatch. Using ice chisels, they pried it open. The tunnel below was empty of water, propped by timbers. 50 yards down the slope lay the drone, nose crumpled against collapsed debris. Derek and Lucas crouched amid splintered boards, hands raised, while icy water seeped through new cracks. A crate marked Duclair maple syrup, product of Canada, had burst, revealing vacuum-sealed bundles of white powder. Sheriff Dunleavy, a grizzled pragmatist, cuffed the men, radioed for narcotics units, and surveyed Maren with grudging admiration. "You run a lodge or a detective agency, Gustafson?" "Mostly a lodge," Maren said, cheeks hot despite the cold. "But the lake talks." The deputies escorted prisoners to the snowcat. Jack shined a flashlight along the tunnel walls. Look at the tool marks. Somebody's been enlarging these for months, probably starting from natural fissures. And lining them with reinforced cloth, Marin noted, kicking a sagging sheet of polymer. Lightweight, cheap, quick, perfect seasonal pipeline. Fenn sniffed a chunk of muddy ice, sneezed and wagged. Job done. By dawn, Darcy Quaid was in custody too. A quick warrant search of his boathouse uncovered 2 more submersible drones, oxygen tanks, counterfeit customs labels, and ledgers tying shipments to an address in Thunder Bay. The Chicago men turned out to be logistics specialists for an international smuggling ring that exploited frozen border lakes. Whispering Birch was merely the latest depot. Quaid's eco-resort had been a shell to buy shorefront cover. Cleanup crews spent a week pumping slush from the collapsed tunnel and sealing entrances with reinforced grout. The odd warm day in February left mist curling above the patches, like ghosts being smoked out. During a quiet midweek lull, Maren brewed Swedish tea and set 2 mugs on the snow-dusted picnic table overlooking the lake. Jack joined her, minus uniform, wearing a flannel shirt so soft it looked woven from memories. "Sheriff says DEA's impressed. They might give you a commendation," he said. "I'd rather have stable electricity," Marin answered, though secretly the idea pleased her. She absently traced the rim of her mug. "Do you think Clay would have approved of my ice vandalism?" Jack smiled. Clay bypassed a carburetor with baling wire once, so the school bus made it to Duluth. He'd approve. While Fenn chased chickadees near the sweat feeder, Marin contemplated her lake, white, seemingly innocent. Funny how you can live beside a place, know its moods, and still miss what's happening underneath. Jack nudged her shoulder. "Knowing you, you'll install sonar in every rental shanty next winter. Smugglers won't stand a chance." "Maybe," she said, "but I like the mystery, just a little. Makes ordinary days feel earned." She inhaled, catching wood smoke, pine sap, and the faint metallic scent of fresh-cut ice. The smell of home. A week later, newcomers arrived, lured by headlines. Fishing Lodge hero foils lake tunnel traffic. They wanted her signature on neon bobbers, selfies with Fenn, and tour commentary about the battle. Maren obliged, cheeks rosy, then slipped away to her snowmobile whenever dawn pinked the sky, sonar warmed up, and silent paragraphs of lakebed awaited translation. Spring would come, turning the ice to pancake flows, and the lodge to a place of kayaks and loon calls. Stories about hidden tunnels would mellow into campfire fodder. But whenever Maren passed the patched-in collapse scar, she felt a small thrill. She'd out-listened criminals, saved her lake, and proven, to herself most of all, that life after loss still promised fresh pages. Somewhere deep below, the lake continued murmuring in a language only patient listeners heard, and Maren Gustafson intended to keep up the conversation for as many Minnesota winters as she had breath to see.